Hey everyone, and welcome to the Kickabout episode number 13, when we have Dan and Fran with us again.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
So we are still at home, but the good news is that we won't be at home for much longer, because the government has announced that we will not be in this strict lockdown after the 2nd of December. We can keep our fingers crossed. We can keep our fingers crossed that we're going to go into tier 1, which means we will be able to see each other and we can get back to doing our normal recordings, but we'll have to just wait and find out what tier our area is going to be in. But interestingly, guys, the fans are back in town.
How exciting.
Hopefully. I mean, this is huge for football fans. I mean, this is something that other countries have done well before we have. And finally up to 4,000 in tier 1 and 2,000 in tier 2, I think it is. Are going to be allowed back in, so we won't have to deal with, the quiet, staged sounds that we currently hear.
I feel like I'm kind of used to it now, though.
Is it going to be weird going back to normalities? Is that what you're saying?
I wonder if do you reckon it'll still be loud?
Is it just 4,000?
I mean,
because like 2,000 people in Wembley Stadium's not a lot.
No, not
yeah. At all. I mean, if it was like a lower league ground where their capacity is only like 2,000 or 4,000 or whatever, then you've heard the noise. Sometimes it can still be pretty noisy, and they can make an atmosphere. But yeah, in a big stadium, I don't know whether the noise will be lost in the sort of
Do you think they'll still play the fake noise?
I don't know. I think maybe for the first couple of games they won't, to sort of see what the noise is like. And there's a good chance that not every ground is going to allow fans in as well, if there's some areas of the country that are going to still be in the heavier tiers.
Well, they might do what they're doing at the moment, where like Sky Sports main event plays with the crowd noise, and then you can obviously have it without the crowd noise. They might still carry on doing that.
Yeah, that's true. They might do that, but nonetheless, it's massive news for football fans who have been desperate to get back into the grounds for a long time now. So it's a much welcomed positive piece of news. Right, Dan, why don't you give us this week's stat?
Yep. So I've gone for the Leicester game for this one, and Johnny Evans' own goal for Leicester was his 6th in the Premier League. Only 3 other players have scored more own goals in the competition's history. Can you name them?
I reckon I can name one.
I reckon I know who that is as well.
Yeah, I reckon I can name one. Did you say Premier League?
Premier League, yeah.
So we're going back to 92. Okay. Yeah. I reckon I can name one. I'm not sure about the other 2, but we'll have a crack at that later. So tonight's episode, we're going to split the podcast in half, as we always do with our break in the middle. But the first half is going to be focused on the top of the table stuff, as there were lots of important games going on. And then the second half, we're going to focus on the battle to stay in the league, with all the teams fighting out at the bottom. So let's get straight to it then. The big one of the weekend. All hail Jose Mourinho, Spurs against City.
What a beautiful game it was.
Just want to say I called it last week, saying Tottenham would beat City.
You did, yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Chris is like, I don't know.
But anyway, tactical masterclass from Jose, and it was classic Jose. Really, sit back, soak up the pressure, and be deadly on the break.
He's got the players to do it, though, hasn't he? With Son and Kane, I mean, they're unstoppable at the moment.
Yeah. Fran, I mean, we've spoken about Jose before. Obviously, Dan, you've had experience of supporting a team with Jose at the helm. Jose's getting an awful lot of praise for this performance in particular, and the fact that Spurs are in the upper reaches of the Premier League now. Are we in danger of a little bit of double standards here?
Yeah, I mean, I was not his biggest fan. But a lot of people feel like that, don't they? Like, you didn't really like him, did you? But he did do well for your team.
Yeah, I mean, he done better for us than Ollie's done.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't.
David Moyes has almost done better than Ollie Solskjaer has done.
True. I just didn't like the style of football, to be honest. Like for me, I like the way like Liverpool and Man City play. It's very like risky attacking football, whereas Jose is very much. I don't want to say safe because I wouldn't say it was safe.
But I think he is kind of doing that now with Tottenham because he has the players.
Well, no, but he's always done that. He's not changed style.
No, I meant he's like more attacking now with Tottenham.
Well, no, I think he's just got the attack. Very defensive manager because you could see him defending against City, but difference is they've got the players going forward to damage other teams.
Make it happen.
Yeah, I feel like. I'm a bit with Fran here. I do kind of feel like Jose has adjusted it slightly because if you look at some of the games they've played, they have won by a lot of goals. And, one or two of them against teams that may not have come onto them in the same way that a team like City would. We long thought that Jose is a bit of a dinosaur, but given the proficiency of this performance and the way that the pundits are falling in, do we think that at the end of the day, this is football? There are multiple ways to skin a cat, as the saying goes. Guardiola's football is so pleasing on the eye, and it has been for all his career, that everyone kind of jumped on the bandwagon and was like, "Oh my God, this is how it has to be done. This is the way football now has to be played." But it's not the only way, right? I mean, Sam Allardyce has made a career out of it. There are other football managers that have had success doing it as well. I mean, look at Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. He's one of the most tactically strict managers, probably even worse than Mourinho, and yet he's always given plenty of praise for the way he's transformed Atletico Madrid into a contender in Spain.
Well, what have they won?
Won the Champions League, didn't they? Did they not? They won La Liga. I don't know if they actually did win the Champions League. They certainly got to the final a couple of times.
Just because Mourinho prefers Spurs to United, let's just back down. Okay?
I do enjoy different styles of football. It'd be boring if everyone had the same style of football. So I just personally don't like that style of football. I'm not saying that everybody should hate it. I think personally watching it, I don't enjoy it.
I think Chris and I are saying that he's changed his way of managing or his football.
I mean, time will tell because he did this at United as well. The season when he was at United, I think they won their first 3 or 4 games 4-0 on the spin. Well, and then it reverted to type again.
Our second season, we won the Europa League and I believe the FA Cup or the League Cup. So he always wins.
Shield. It was a treble. It was a treble. He always counts the Community Shield as a trophy.
Yeah. But he always wins, trophies in his second season, and this is his second season, and he is going to be really good. And then next season he'll be at a different club.
It'll be on the dole queue and the job line again. So anyway, let's get to the game itself. City dominated the early periods as they ended up sort of actually dominating the ball across the game, but then just that defensive weakness again, which has reared its head once or twice. A lovely through ball from Ndombele, who seems like a rejuvenated player this season. Diaz and Laporte didn't cover themselves in glory, but certainly Ederson didn't either. Do you agree with the general consensus that Ederson was way too far off his line for this goal?
Yeah, I mean for both, really, to be honest.
He almost did it a third time as well.
Yeah, but I mean that's why Guardiola bought him, isn't it? Because that's the kind of play. He's almost like a centre back rather than a goalkeeper, if that makes sense.
Is he trying to be the Manuel Neuer of the Premier League?
Yeah, like that South Korea goal, and he was like on his half.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at the goal itself, I mean, Ederson obviously is a long way out of his from his goal. If he doesn't come out that far, if you look at Cancelo, who gets so close to Son to blocking that shot. So if Ederson's not there, Son is going to have a much harder time getting that shot away because he doesn't really connect with it that well. It's just that it goes through his legs. So if Ederson is not there, I think that there is a reasonable chance that Son doesn't score there.
Yeah, I mean, him rushing out sort of made Son's mind up for him. He had to take the shot, and I mean, Son doesn't miss it at the moment.
Certainly not when he's playing Man City, he doesn't.
Yeah. I also think I think Laporte was maybe told to man mark Harry Kane because Harry Kane obviously drops into midfield quite a lot and Laporte just seemed to follow him and left a massive gap in behind.
Yeah. And then as the game sort of went on, it started to fall into a bit of a familiar pattern with City having large portions of the ball, but not really doing a lot with it. And then capped off by Lo Celso scoring after about 30 odd seconds with his first touch of the ball. One slightly sour point for Spurs is that Toby Alderweireld sounds like it could be a long-term groin injury, which will be a real worry because he was awesome at the back, and even, dare I say, Eric Dyer was very good as well.
And that Joe Rodon got a start, didn't he? Well, not a start, but an appearance.
Yeah. Last week we had a comment when we did our listeners section from a certain Joe Morton who said that Ben Chilwell was the best left back in the league. Would you put Reguilon in that category now? Because from what I saw, I was massively impressed with him yesterday.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I mean, I don't know about saying best left back in the league. I mean, we're only like 8 games in. I think it's a bit early to start saying he's the best left back in the league. But
no. But I think I don't think he's there yet. But I think he's probably in the conversation. Is he not?
I think, if he keeps up these performances all season, then I definitely agree.
Yeah. Laporte had a goal chalked, so City did have the ball in the net. Laporte's goal was chalked off for a handball from Gabriel Jesus. What do we think on this one? There's been a lot of mixed opinions on this as to whether this is a handball or not.
I mean, obviously it was.
Okay, let's ask the non-Tottenham fan here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we have the same discussions every week, don't we? I don't like the handball rule as it is, to be honest. I don't know. I think I want to say it's too black and white, but I don't know if it's black and white enough.
No, I mean, it's strange because if we go back to sort of the older handball rule, I think this one is ruled out and there's no real argument to it. But I think with these new rules, as you say, it's clouded it so much now that we're now trying to analyse, right, exactly where on his arm has that hit, because it is actually quite difficult to tell. On one angle it sort of looks like it's hit almost like his elbow, almost his lower bicep, upper forearm, and then another angle it actually looks like it's hit him higher up, so it's really difficult to see. But I don't know, it's one of those ones where I'm maybe in my mind I'm still running off the old rules, but I look at that and I say handball when I look at that.
Yeah
Amen.
So City's problems continue. That's 13th in the league now. No goals in this game. We talked last week about their issues in front of goal. And for me, this game spoke volumes to those issues in front of goal when most of their clear chances that I can remember from watching the game, they were all from set pieces. They didn't really create anything from open play.
No. I mean, it's bad when they're below us in the table.
Is that what it's become now, that Man United are a measuring stick for how bad a team is?
Yeah, we're getting an open top bus in at the weekend.
What, for the 1-0 win over West Brom?
Just for being higher up in the league than City for a week.
So, I mean, what is missing from City? Is it a confidence thing? Is it tactically? Does Guardiola need to change things up tactically a little bit?
I think as a striker, I think it's as simple as a striker.
But I think that's what that's what he said though after the match when they were talking to Pep. He literally just said, "Goals. We're just not getting enough goals." Because
Aguero's obviously keeps getting injured, and I just don't. I think Gabriel Jesus is a good player, but it's hard when you've a prolific goal scorer like Aguero to then try and replace that, and I just don't think they've replaced that with Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah, Aguero, I think, is a better striker in these types of games where they're not going to have unbelievable amounts of space inside the box. It's going to be very compact. Teams are going to defend deep. You are going to have to effectively feed off scraps, and I feel like Aguero is so much better at doing that than Jesus is. But as you say, Aguero's just not around at the moment. So
he's just one of those players that even when, no matter how the game is going, even if you're getting 2% possession, he always seems to manage to find an opportunity to score a goal.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Gabriel Jesus needs the team to be absolutely smashing the game to get a goal.
It's a lovely little segue you give me there about possession, because if you look at the stats, it was an uninitiated or somebody who didn't watch the game would think that this was one of the most one-sided games ever, and that Spurs have completely stolen this, because it was 66% possession to City, 22 shots to City to Spurs is 4, 89% pass completion to Spurs is 73, 10 corners to Spurs 0. I mean, it's not like City didn't create chances. Maybe it was just the clear chances that they're really not. Maybe I don't know what they're classing as some of these shots. I mean, the set piece headers were a couple. Maybe these long range block shots all the time. But yeah, I don't see where these goals are coming from City. And I don't know if Aguero is the answer.
No, I think Aguero, I hate to say it, but I think he might be done at City now, especially if these injuries are going to sort of be a recurring issue. They might have to sort of have a look at getting another striker in January.
I mean, they obviously were prepared to go for Messi in the summer. I don't think that Messi solves this problem either. Should they break the bank and go and get Erling Haaland from Dortmund?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't know, how long's he been there? He's only been there one season?
Yes, I think this is his second season, isn't it? So yeah, a season and a bit.
I don't know if Dortmund would let him go just yet. I feel like Haaland's agent would maybe wait for a Real Madrid or a Barcelona to come in.
You don't think he'd fancy playing for his dad's club and under someone like Pep?
Yeah, the thing is, though, City, they don't do very well in the Champions League, do they? They're not doing very well in the Premier League at the moment. I feel like Barcelona and Real Madrid would be a much more interesting move for him than Man City. But, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, because it definitely could.
Yeah, I mean, Barcelona are in a bit of a shit show themselves right now anyway, in the league. I think they're 10th in the league at the moment or something stupid. Wow. It's interesting because we spoke just before we came on air, actually, or recording, that Haaland's agent, most people seem to believe that he went to Dortmund because he wanted that one payday, and then he knows that a second big payday is extremely likely to happen in the not too distant future. So if the agent is motivated by purely money, which, let's be honest, the majority of them probably are, if City come waving the biggest check, that might be enough to make him move anyway.
Yeah, very true.
It's not anyway, like City to spend a lot of money though on a transfer.
No, absolutely not. They're usually very reserved for that sort of thing. So we'll expect it.
To be honest.
So yeah, Spurs march on. Huge game next against Chelsea. Fran, how do you see that one panning out against Chelsea?
Well, I don't know. I don't. I'm a bit. What's the word? Like, not modest. I don't know what it is, but I'm always like, they'll never win. So against City, I was like, no, they'll lose it.
Negative, I think is the word you're looking for.
Yes, I didn't want to say that word, thanks, Chris, but there we go. No, I mean, I hope they win it. One, because of Joe Morton's comments next week would be horrendous if they lose it. And two, good for morale, because they've then got Arsenal, Liverpool, Leicester.
Yes, some tough games for sure on the horizon.
It's a big old month for Spurs compared to like Liverpool and Chelsea, who have got relatively easier games than that.
Yeah, so I mean, if Spurs can get through those games and pick up, more wins than losses and still be in the hunt, then I think we're on for a good season here. So talking of Chelsea, let's talk about their game against Newcastle. Their rich vein of form, both in front of goal and preventing goals, key as well, continued as they brushed aside Newcastle, which was a fairly routine win in the end, wasn't it? A 2-0 win.
Yeah, all their players starting to gel together now. Starting to see them play as a real team.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It's an important milestone for Chelsea under Lampard as well. That even if it was only very briefly, they did top the table. And you would say at the moment that Chelsea, are much like Spurs, are probably Chelsea and Spurs are looking the most likely at the moment to run Liverpool close for the league title this year.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, looking at it. And Mendy has kept 7 clean sheets so far.
Yeah, you've stolen my thunder there. How dare you?
Sorry, I didn't. I was looking down. I didn't see it.
There's a whole section on it later. My God.
I was looking for it because I didn't want to mention it, and I've just seen it down the bottom.
Ruined it.
Sorry, mate. But anyway, on that point, Mendy does have 7 in 9 in all competitions, 4 in 5, 4 in his last 5 for Chelsea. We did mention actually about how big a signing he has been. Chelsea were never likely to compete for major honours with Kepa in goal. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that Chelsea do go on and win the league this season. Will they look back at Mendy as being the pivotal signing to make that happen?
One of.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say that. I think it's definitely, you would definitely say one of, especially with like the likes of Ziyech. The way he's been playing, obviously he's had like 3 man of the matches in a row or something like that. So you could say that's another player that's like a pivotal move. But yeah, I would definitely say Mendy was up there as one of the most influential signings.
Yeah. I mean, in the game itself, Newcastle just never really got going and didn't put up a particular fight. And Chelsea, in truth, could and probably should have won this game by a lot more. They had some very good chances. Timo Werner looking extremely lively again, a bit wasteful at times, but he did lay on Tammy Abraham's goal, who's now Werner's now been involved in 11 goals in his last 10 games for Chelsea, 8 goals and 3 assists. But I'm really pleased that Abraham is still playing under Lampard.
Yeah, when all the signings came in, it looked like Abraham's time was probably up.
Adios.
Yeah, it would have been very easy to relegate him to the fringes of the team, but Lampard, it seemingly is rotating the squad and it's working for them at the moment.
Especially with the amount of games that all these teams have got to play, and obviously Chelsea are in the Champions League, so I think it is good that he's rotating as much as he is.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget that Abraham last season, I know he went through a little bit of a barren spell in the second half of the season, but early on in the season, he was absolutely on fire for Chelsea. He was their main striker. He scored a good amount of goals last season, so he clearly does have quality to offer for Chelsea and potentially for England if he can find some form.
Yeah, he's got a lot of competition for the England spot, but I mean, it's good. I think it will improve him as a player, fighting against the likes of Timo Werner and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, aside from a venomous long-range effort from Longstaff that hit the bar, Newcastle were pretty abject, and their defending was even worse at times. It sounds like they may have lost Lascelles to injury. Newcastle at the bottom of the main pack, so if you exclude the bottom 5, although Brighton are beginning to creep towards that now. Should Newcastle fans be worried? They do seem to be quite erratic. They're very capable of putting in good performances, and then the next just being almost irrelevant to the game. It's almost like they were just letting the game pass them by.
Yeah, it must be really depressing being a Newcastle fan at the moment.
What, because of the highs and lows?
Well, with the potential takeover that didn't happen and stuff like that, and just, I mean, Newcastle definitely have the potential as a club to be fighting for like Europa League, but unfortunately, with the owner and everything, they're fighting relegation most of the time.
But I think you have to remember that they were, agreed, but they were playing or did play a very good Chelsea side, and they didn't have Callum Wilson either.
Yeah, I don't mean just in this game.
No, I know.
So far in the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Obviously, Chelsea is not the game that Newcastle are looking at and thinking, this is going to define our season or anything like that. But if you look at just the way they approached the game, the way they applied themselves, I think that this game could have easily been 4 or 5, if not more.
I think they went into it knowing they were going to lose. I think.
I just feel like there's a certain level that you expect from your teams, and in the games that I've seen Newcastle lose, it does seem to be that if they're either at the races or they are just so far off it, there doesn't appear to be anything in between. There doesn't appear to be a how do I put this? Like a middle of the road performance, like a Burnley of old. They won't ever play particularly well, but they'll work hard. They'll grind out a result here and there. Whereas with Newcastle, they've either got to be great and score some really easy on the eye goals with the likes of Saint Maximin and Callum Wilson, or they're going to roll over and just let you do whatever you want to them. So, and they've got Palace, Villa and West Brom next. If they don't get good results from those, would you go as far to say that maybe Brucey's job is on the line?
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame they let Benitez go, really, because he was doing very well for them, but obviously he wanted a lot more put into the club, which didn't happen. I feel like Steve Bruce is just a very safe
manager anyway. I feel like if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd want someone that's going to push us up. And I don't think Bruce is that manager, but I also think that you're probably not going to get relegated with Bruce. So
yeah, you're right. He is a safe appointment. He wasn't a popular appointment, that's for damn sure. He was. There were calls for him to be sacked within weeks of him starting. Yeah, as you say, he has steadied the ship to a point. They brought in some good players and made a couple of good signings. But do you think that perhaps with the takeover looming, and there's been so much talk of takeover over the last few years, do you think they brought Bruce in to make sure the club doesn't get relegated, almost like an Allardyce type manager, knowing that if the takeover goes through, then Bruce is likely to get replaced anyway?
Well, there were a lot of rumours that when the Saudis or whatever it was that were going to buy the club, there was a lot of rumours that they'd already found its replacement. So I do think that if a new ownership came in, they probably would get a new manager.
Yeah, I mean, there was even rumours that Mourinho was going there at one point, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, just to summarise that game then, I mean, Chelsea looking extremely strong, not conceding goals, scoring plenty, definitely in the hunt, and Newcastle, yeah, I don't know. I've just got this feeling like of all the clubs that are not in that bottom five, if you like, I just got this feeling that if there's a club that's going to go on a really barren run and not pick up too many wins, it's going to be someone like Newcastle, and they could easily get dragged into that battle.
Especially if they get, one or two injuries to key players, definitely.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on then to the other big game of the weekend, Liverpool against Leicester. It's worth saying that before this game and also the Tottenham City game, both clubs paid their respects to club and England legend Ray Clemence, who sadly passed away, and Liverpool put on a cracking performance in his honour. Big statement here from Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with Leicester, to be honest. I thought it was going to be a really even game, but I mean, Liverpool absolutely smashed them.
Do you think Leicester missed a trick here?
I think so, yeah. I think Leicester should have really gone for it because they had a couple of youngsters on. They had that, ended up putting that Williams on, and they started with Jones. I think they could have definitely gone for it, but
they didn't do anything.
No, they didn't really seem to get off the bus.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers said after the game that he felt certainly in the first half they were way too passive, and he has said though that approach has worked for them on occasions this year. They've given up the ball against teams like City, for example, when they beat them. Was it 5-2, whatever it was in the end? I mean, they even won the league by taking a similar approach to that a few years ago. So it's not written on the wall that you're going to lose if you decide to give up possession and try and play on the break, but you have to have a level of energy about you. And Leicester just seemed, it's almost like they were tired after the international break.
Yeah, and with Liverpool, they play a really high line. And I feel like Leicester having a player like Jamie Vardy, they could have really made use of that and they could have scored quite a lot of goals. But I
don't think he ever got the ball.
No, I didn't even realise he was playing half the game. But
I mean, given Liverpool's back line and who was in that back line, a few little cheeky balls in behind for Vardy to chase might have given them some really troubling moments for that Liverpool defence.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, as a statement goes, it's a new club record, 64 games unbeaten now at home in the Premier League. That is an incredible statistic. Okay. 64 games. That must span. I'm just trying to do the math here. It's 19 home games a season. So that stretches over 3 seasons now.
That's mental.
If my maths is right and I'm not thinking about this the wrong way, 64 games. So it's 19 home games per season. 19 times 3 is 57. So yeah, we're into our 3rd season that they've not been beaten at home in the Premier League.
Crazy.
So that is impressive. And their squad depth is just about as impressive as that stat as well. I mean, we spoke last week about the injuries that they had. Their back four was Milner at right back. They had Matip and Fabinho at centre back, and thankfully Robertson was fit enough to play at left back after his injury scare in the week with Scotland. But you wouldn't know that was not their first choice defence. They were very, very good and very composed.
I really rate Fabinho, actually. It kind of reminds me of Fernandinho at City. He's like an all-rounder.
Yeah, he's just got this calmness about him, hasn't he? That he's got that persona that he is just almost like a Van Dijk, just that presence.
Yeah, and they're all quite sort of similarly built, aren't they? They're all like 10 foot tall.
Should Leicester have had a penalty in this game? Joel Matip with what was a very unintentional handball. But by today's rules, should that have been a penalty? You can't remember what it is, can you?
I can't. No.
So basically, it was. I'm trying to think who it was who took the air shot. I think it was either Vardy or Harvey Barnes. Took an air shot, completely missed it, and as Matip went in to close him down, the ball bounces up and hits his hand. But it hits his hand quite heavily, and the ball sort of travels a good 5-10 yards away. Now, if you're going to be giving penalties for, I'm trying to think, the penalty in the Man United West Brom game, for example, and we've seen similar penalties given in recent weeks where a cross comes in, they sort of put their body where they turn their back on the ball a little bit, their hands in a natural position, but then a little bit outside of their body. If we're giving penalties for that, I'm really surprised that this wasn't given as a handball.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, especially like with the United one. I was a bit 50-50 about it being a penalty. It's just, I think that's all it is at the moment. It's very 50-50. Sometimes, they're given, and then exactly the same thing will happen in another game, and it's not given. It's quite a strange one.
Yeah, I think as sad as it is, and as a sorry state of affairs it is, that we've accepted now that by today's rules, if you block a cross with your hand and it's pelted at you at 400 miles an hour from 4 inches away, it's still going to be a penalty. And it's a sad state of affairs that we have begun to accept that now, that even the commentators are looking at it going, well, it's not a penalty, but unfortunately it's going to be given as one because that's what the rules are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was surprising it wasn't given. It won't do anything to help the Liverpool brigade. It was a moment of let off for Liverpool in a game where it could have gone either way at that point. Harvey Barnes missed a really good chance to level it up. I think it was only 1-0 at the time. But then Liverpool's new little gem, Diego Jota. What a player he's turning into for Liverpool.
Yeah, he wasn't even their first choice, I don't think, was he?
Well, he's going to be. He keeps playing like this.
I think they wanted that Watford winger. I read somewhere they wanted the Watford winger, but he was too expensive, so they settled for Diego Jota. Looks like it might have...
Ismail Assar?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it looks like it might have worked out quite well after all.
Yeah, every cloud and all that. So that's 8 goals now for Liverpool for Jota. A goal in all 4 home Premier League games for Liverpool. There was a stat around that, and I think that he's the first Liverpool player to do that since... a long time ago. I can't remember what the exact stat was, but I know it's an impressive stat nonetheless. It was a wonderful header, the glancing header that he had in the game, wasn't it? The cross from Robertson was superb, but look, you've got to love a glancing header like that, haven't you?
Yeah. I think Jota is definitely what Liverpool needed. They needed that player that when you're missing your Mane and you're missing your Salah, that it's not like a massive disadvantage, because Jota, obviously he's not as good as those two, but he's a lot better than likes of Shaqiri, etc.
Yeah, and Divock Origi.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you Klopp has at times, he obviously rates Jota himself. He's obviously been as impressed with his form as we all have, and he has at times played all 4 of them in the same game by putting. I think he actually deploys Jota in a midfield role. I think Firmino is happy to drop into midfield, and they can sort of rotate the 4 of them around. We often hear about what Firmino adds to the team. He's not just all about, it's not all about the goal scoring stats for him. It's about what he does for the all round play. But if you had to pick a front 3, would you have Firmino over Jota?
Yeah, I think so.
You would. You'd still have him over Jota, despite that Jota has a better goal scoring record or seems to be better in front of goal. You'd still have Firmino for that work rate.
I get the impression that Chris would have Jota.
Well, I think the way I understand why, because I always said that Firmino is a waste of space. Well, not in those words. I don't think he's a waste of space, but with obviously you've got he's the striker, and then you've got Salah and Mane scoring all the goals. But I think that is what they're set up to do. I think they're set up as if Salah and Mane are almost the strikers, and then
false 9.
Yeah, Firmino is that false 9 sort of cam role, and it's rare to find a player that's quite happy to give up the goals to the other two players.
Yeah, I mean, you say about giving up the goals, but it's not like Firmino doesn't have his chances. I mean, it's ironic that the hardest chance of the weekend that he had was the one that he took and scored. It was a lovely header from a corner. It was
a great goal, yeah.
He really rose well. You know, I love when you see those headers where the player really proper puts his neck and back into it as he powers the header home. But he had, I think, 2 very good chances before that. Ones where you would expect a player of his quality to score. And I feel like if he keeps missing those sorts of chances, would Klopp eventually succumb to playing Jota instead of him if Jota keeps scoring?
Well, he did come 10 millimetres away from scoring just before that, didn't he?
It was. That was. I don't actually ever think I've seen a Hawkeye decision as close as that. That was quite incredible, wasn't it?
It was literally like the thread of the ball that was keeping it in.
So yeah, we spoke about Leicester. I don't really know what their approach was. Do you think this was a deliberate approach to sit off and give Liverpool the ball, or do you think this was just a bad day at the office, effectively?
We played 5 at the back, and then he swapped it in like the 60th, 70th minute to go 4 at the back, and he pushed another player further forward. So I think his plan was to just sit back and counter-attack, but they just weren't getting the balls up to Vardy, and so it ended up just being a sit back and sit back. And then he tried to change it around, but the problem is changing stuff around in the 60th minute. I mean, sometimes it does work, but it's almost like a too little too late type thing.
Yeah, sometimes when a team is playing the way they are, that a sub can't come on and change it anyway, because it's almost like it's so ingrained in the team and how they're playing. Yeah. Sub comes on and falls straight into the same trap as the players that are already out there. But it just felt like it was a bit of potentially a free hit for Leicester. And I know that's maybe not the right way to put this, but effectively, we know this is Liverpool. We know that they're going to high press you and etc. This was a weakened side. If Leicester go for it and lose 3-0, you can say, bloody hell, Liverpool, that was fantastic. But, Leicester came and gave it a really good go. But they've still lost fairly handedly in the end.
They almost
probably hurts their confidence more.
They almost sort of took it lying down, really. I think they could have gone for it and really made a statement with potentially beating, even draw, would have been good. But they just didn't, like I say, they didn't turn up at all.
Yeah. Do you think from a confidence point of view, like this, that a result like this, I mean, I'm not just say this particular game, but in football in general, do you think that when you go to a team like Liverpool and you really give it a go, you sort of say to hell with it, throw caution to the wind, go for it, you lose 3 or 4-0 and you come off the pitch. Do you think that you're feeling better about yourself if you do that than if you come off the pitch losing 3 or 4-0, just trying to park the bus and play counter-attacking football?
I think so. Even not just as a player, like as a fan, I would rather watch my team, go for it and attack as often as possible and lose 3-2 than to watch them sit back all game and try and grab a 1-0 win.
Yeah, I agree. Right, just before we go to the break, just a quick chat about the overall title picture. We are just coming up to a third of the way through the season. Are we fairly satisfied that we're looking at a 3-horse race? Do we feel that City are not really contenders right now?
Do you want to say?
No, I don't know. I don't really know about City. It's a bit of a mixed bag with them, isn't it?
I think it's still too early to say, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I forgot this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think we'll be involved, but I mean, we're only like 6 points or so, 6 or 7 points off of like first place, so it's still all to play for. And they've only played 8 games, which is not even a quarter of the way. I know it's close, but it's not even a quarter of the way yet. So
yeah. I think that's some narrative to talk about, though, Dan.
I agree. I've obviously look at those top 3 teams, but I mean, not everybody's played everybody yet, and I feel like some teams have played harder games than other teams have, and once everyone's played everyone, you'll start to get a bigger picture. But
often it. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was saying, you often, at these points of the season, you often look at the teams that are up there and you judge them based on how you feel their longevity is going to be across the season, which is why, despite, even if Southampton was still top of the league, I'm fairly certain nobody would be taking them seriously to even finish in the Champions League, let alone winning the league. So when you have teams up there like Chelsea, like Spurs, like Liverpool, who are doing so well, and you see City being so out of sorts, you do have to look at the history of the team, what they've done, how they're playing, who their manager is, etc. And personally, I do feel like this is looking very much like a 3-horse race. I would go as far to say that I don't think City are going to challenge this season for the title. I really don't.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot can happen in January though, and City have got a lot of money to spend. I think all they're missing is one player really. It's just that striker. If they can get someone to get them goals, I think they'll be back up there again. But I do think it will be like a mainly that 3-horse race. But we saw with Leicester last season, they were like third the entire season and they ended up finishing fifth. So
yeah, okay, well obviously we will come Christmas time, I guess we will have a bit more of a bigger picture. Just before we go to the break, some MLS news. Dan, I'd like you to walk us through some madness that occurred in a penalty shootout in the MLS recently.
So I've sort of written down notes on what happened, but me talking about it won't do the clip justice at all. So I think you've shared it, haven't you, with the Kickabout?
Yeah, it is on the Kickabout's Facebook page. If you haven't seen this, I do highly recommend you go and watch it.
Yeah, so I would definitely say just go and watch it rather than listen to me explain it, because it's not going to do it any justice at all. But pretty much Orlando City were playing New York City in the MLS playoffs. And after a 1-1 draw in normal time, the Orlando goalkeeper, Pedro Galassi, no idea how you pronounce his name, was shown a second yellow card for moving off the line before saving the New York City's penalty. And,
when has that ever been a rule, by the way? I've never in my life seen a goalkeeper shown a yellow card for coming off his line.
No, I was sent to you out. I feel like they could have just said to him, don't do that again or something like that. Almost like a slap on the wrist. I feel like a straight yellow card, especially when he's already on a yellow card, to send him off is a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
If it'd done it like more than once, if it'd already been warned and then he did it again, I can fully understand them giving him a yellow card. But for them to just do it on the first go just seems very strange.
Mm-hmm.
So then with him thinking he'd won the match for Orlando, everybody started celebrating. The manager ran down the touchline.
That was
the changing room celebrating. And as we were saying, in the MLS, it's actually like a rule that they don't warn the goalkeepers to stay on the line, and then they book them if they don't stay on the line, which is a bit strange. So the manager ran into the changing rooms celebrating for some strange reason, and his staff actually had to go and grab him, come and get him back because their goalkeeper had just been sent off. So they then substituted their reserve goalkeeper on, and he made his way up to the goal. And then after a few minutes, the referee suddenly realised that you're not allowed to make a sub during a penalty shootout. So then he sent him packing his things.
How does the referee not know that? I mean, that is so basic.
It was such a shambolic, I don't even know. I think it went down as like one of the longest penalty shootouts. And there wasn't even that many penalties taken. So then I think it was their right back that they stuck in goal. And he didn't save the penalty. They scored the penalty that was originally saved, and a couple more penalties were taken. And then all of a sudden, the makeshift goalkeeper saved the penalty, and the Orlando team all ran around celebrating, thinking that they'd won the game, without realizing that there was still another penalty that needed to be taken in order for them to win.
Yeah, it's sudden death penalties. It's not fucking hard, people.
Yeah. So they then had to compose themselves again. And the Orlando player then took the last penalty, scored it, and they could finally celebrate 3 hours later.
Even the commentators were just like, they were so bemused as to what was going on, to the point where they're almost laughing. And when that penalty was taken, when the makeshift goalie saved it and they were started celebrating, at no point did either commentators say, well done, they've won the game or anything like that. They were like, There's not a penalty left, isn't there? Like they were so confused. Oh my God. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go and check out our Facebook page and have a watch. You'll be able to find it on YouTube, I'm sure, as well. But check it out on our Facebook page and drop a like while you're there. Right, we're going to head to the break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the listeners and we're going to take a look at the picture at the other end of the table. See you in a minute. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Let's jump straight into the listener segment. So, Fran, what has everyone been saying this week?
So Pete has said, so we're a quarter way through the season and I'm surprised how tight it is. The bottom of the league is starting to take shape. Quite surprised to see Sheffield United down there, but I called the Burnley, Fulham, West Brom little group. I still think Liverpool and City will take Champions League spots, but Chelsea and Spurs are really relishing the slip-ups along with a few other teams, but they are the only ones I see keeping up the pace. Obviously, the Southampton game is happening now, but he says, I'm writing this before the Southampton match for good reason, but yes, credit where it is due for all teams up there stepping up. Isn't this the first week Spurs, West Ham and United have all won? Hashtag up the Statman Dan.
Thank you.
So the bottom of the league is starting to take shape. Are we surprised that Sheffield are there?
I am very surprised at Sheffield, actually. I put quite a few of their players in my fantasy team at the start of the season.
Well, that's why then. I think you should apologise to them. We all know that when we put, I mean, it's like I put Ziyech in my team and he's done fuck all since I put him in my team.
I put Salah and Zaha in and neither of them played this week. Yeah.
They've both got COVID, haven't they?
Yeah.
Apparently, Jesse Lingard's got COVID now as well.
From doing what?
Which is, are you trying to suggest that he's not doing anything outside of playing football?
If anyone hates Jesse
He's
Lingard,
not even on the JD Sports adverts anymore.
Oh my God.
The
JD adverts comes on and Dan's like, no Jesse Lingard.
Oh dear, it's such a shame because, you know, in a few years' time, he's still a young player. I feel like Jesse Lingard could do so much.
Potential.
But yeah, no, I am surprised that Sheffield United are still down there. Obviously, we're going to talk about the bottom clubs in a moment, but I don't think there's too many surprises about Fulham and West Brom being down there. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. And obviously Burnley got their first win tonight.
Yes, that's a big win for them against Crystal Palace.
And still think Liverpool and City will take Champions League spots?
I think they'll both take Champions League spots. I'd be very surprised to see Man City in the Europa League next year, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, despite what I said earlier, I would be very surprised if City aren't in the Champions League. But I still feel at the moment, the way things are, that City are a long way from actually challenging for the title. Yeah. It just depends on whichever team it is that wins the league, whether they win it by a mile like Liverpool did last year, whether it's really close between 1, 2 or 3 teams. I don't know. But yeah, I think it would be very surprising, especially after Guardiola's just signed a new 2-year deal. If they don't get into the Champions League, that would be quite interesting to see if that was to happen, whether Guardiola stays if they end up in the Europa League.
I think it'll be closer this year, which would be good.
Yes, me too. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, last season was amazing to watch as Liverpool ran away and broke all these records, etc. But from a neutral, we want to see a closer fight, don't we?
Yeah,
agree. So we'll move on to the next comment from from Joe. Chelsea are going to win the league. End of. He then says something about them beating Spurs, but we don't know about that. Can you give Lampard some credit this week after you've been wanting him to be sacked from day one this season? Even though I said when the signings bed in, we would be class like we are. What a great job he has done, taking us to one of the best sides in the league. Although I would say to that, did you not consider yourself one of the best sides in the league already?
Yes, that's a very good point. I did go back to that and I did say that I don't recall us ever actually saying that we wanted Lampard to be sacked, unless I'm wrong.
No, never wanted him to be sacked. Just said that, with the performances at the start when they were 3-0 up against, was it West Brom, and then drew 3-3 and stuff. I think we said if that carried on, there was potential he could get sacked. I don't ever remember saying I wanted him to.
But I think we've always known with Chelsea that it was just going to take them a while to settle in, just because they had so many new players. But we've for the past couple of weeks, we've said that Chelsea are smashing it, and that they're starting to blend.
They're definitely going to fight for the title. So
yeah. I think with our feeling with Chelsea, and it was the same with a lot of people, was that it wasn't going forward that was ever going to be the problem. It was defensively. And credit where credit's due. He has massively sorted that out. They've made some good signings. He's obviously worked on it on the training ground, and it's now paying dividends. So, no, credit where credit's due. Chelsea are looking extremely strong right now, and you wouldn't bet against them winning something this year for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks everyone for your comments.
Yeah, it's turning into the Joe Morton and Pete Thurgood section, isn't it? that bit. So if you are a regular listener, we'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Even if you just want to ask us a random question about football and get our opinion on a certain team or whatever it might be.
Or an idea for a quiz, always welcome.
Or a forfeit for Dan.
Or a forfeit, anything's welcome.
Right, let's get on then and talk about the bottom half or the bottom end of the Premier League table. So we'll start with the game that was on BBC at the weekend, Fulham against Everton. There appears to be a bit of Groundhog Day going on for some of these bottom teams. It's sort of same old in terms to what their performances are. Fulham just giving up just really easy goals, and you can't keep giving teams in the Premier League 2-3 goal head starts.
No, and I think it was Scott Parker said that, in the second half they turned up, but he said like I said earlier, it's too little too late. They need to be turning up in both halves, especially when you're fighting relegation. You can't just turn up in the second half and try and fight back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, Everton were very good in the first half. Richarlison back in the side seemed to make a big difference. 2 goals from Calvert-Lewin, who's showing no signs of slowing up his goal-scoring form, and Decore scoring as well, making it. I think it was trying to think who scored Fulham's goal. I think it was Reed, wasn't it? I can't remember what he's.
Yeah,
he's got a weird double-barreled name that I can't remember, can't pronounce anyway. But so 3-1 at half time. Fulham's defending was dreadful. Just Everton just sort of ghosted past them, just like Fulham didn't even want to put a challenge in.
Yeah, Richarlison was back again, wasn't he? And he was very good for Everton. It just seems to be that missing link for Everton, I think.
Yeah, you said that stat before about what was the stat you said about Everton about the last time they've won a game without a Brazilian in their side?
Never won a game without Richarlison in the team.
Yeah, so that's quite a stat that I didn't realise they had. So he's clearly very, very important to that team. Second half, Fulham made a couple of changes. They brought on Mitrovic and Loftus-Cheek. They had a much better look about them. And they had Everton under the cosh for a large period of that second half.
Yeah, I think Loftus-Cheek could be a really good player for Fulham this season. And Ademola Lookman's looking like a very good player for them as well.
Why did Loftus-Cheek not start?
I was about to ask the same question. Him and Mitrovic both on the bench, which I found quite surprising.
Seems weird.
Because Scott didn't tell me.
They looked a lot better. Harrison Reed in the midfield looked good on the ball. Lemina and Lookman, as you say, also looked good. But I don't know whether it was a combination of Fulham turning up in the second half and maybe Everton taking their foot off the gas a little bit. They got themselves back in the game with a goal. But just before that, there appears to be a bit of a curse around Fulham at the moment. Why haven't they got anyone who can take penalties, Dan?
I think they need to practice it on the training ground, don't they? I thought that he had just slipped over with the ground, but then watching Match of the Day and they did the analysis, he actually does kick the ball into his own foot.
It was so bad, it was almost impressive.
It was worse than my penalty.
Now, come on, easy, steady. Talking in the match day analysis, Danny Murphy was talking about the angle of the run-up. Do you if you think back to the Beckham penalty against was it Argentina? trying to think who it was against where he fluffed his lines, and I think John Terry did it in the Champions League final.
Champions League, yeah.
I mean, if you take those sorts of run-ups and you're looking to wrap your foot right around the ball, your standing foot is going to be planted a lot quicker and a lot more forcefully into a soft and wet ground. So it does make you wonder why Fulham are taking penalties in such a way. You think just fucking smash the ball in the back of the net. You know, this is now the fourth penalty they've missed this season.
Yeah.
Just fucking put the ball in the net. Stop with this fanning around. You know, you're fighting relegation. You've had 4 goals that may have. I mean, certainly would have got a point against West Ham. It probably would have got them all 3 against Sheffield United, and it may well have got them a point yesterday. I mean, that's potentially 5 points they've now missed out on because of these penalties.
Yeah. I think I would have let Lookman have another go. I know, obviously, cocked up the other one, trying to chip it, but I don't think he would do that again. I feel like from now on, he would make sure of it, and he's probably a good penalty taker, but I feel like I don't think you can keep changing every time someone misses one.
No, it doesn't put any confidence in anyone then, does it? Yeah. I think if they get a penalty next game, I think they're all going to be terrified.
Yeah, because you know that if you miss, you're off them again.
Yeah, it's almost like a curse now, isn't it? Nobody wants it because they've seen other players miss it. It's interesting you say that about Lookman. I mean, it would be a massive gamble to throw him back in there, but he does seem like the sort of player that wouldn't shy away from that. He's a very confident, borderline arrogant player.
Seems like a very confident player, and I feel like if you asked him, he'd be happy enough to take one again. And I don't think he'd make the same stupid decision that he did in the last game.
I would love to see him try it just for bants. I would love to see him try it again.
And miss it again.
Let's just hope they're practicing and training.
Yeah. So thankfully it didn't deflate the team too much, because it was only a couple of minutes later that Loftus-Cheek then scored a really well-worked goal actually from Fulham. Lookman doing some good work on the right-hand side and pulling it back for Loftus-Cheek, but it wasn't enough to stop another loss. And I mean, it sounds so simple, but if Fulham don't stop conceding the number of goals they do, I mean, every team is going to concede goals, right? But if you're conceding 2-3 goals a game, you're going to find it very, very tricky to stay in this league.
Yeah, really poor goals that they're conceding as well. I mean, Everton's goals were actually, I mean, the Decore goal was obviously good, but Digne had all the time in the world to cross it. And the other 2 goals were just quite scrappy goals.
Yeah, I mean, Calvert-Lewin actually didn't even know where the ball was for the first one.
He sort of ran into it, didn't he?
Yeah. Ran into it, yeah. The Decore's goal was very well worked, but I would say that the marking was absolutely dreadful. I mean, he was, I don't know, it was almost on the edge of the 6-yard box. He had about 5 yards of space either side. But they just, as you say, they just got to make it harder for opponents to score against them. I mean, they don't seem to be sort of up for the fight at some points during games.
Yeah. Who have they got next? Do you have any ideas?
Hold that line, caller. Let me go and find out for you.
Hold that line, caller.
They've hello. Oh dear. Oh
God.
So they got Leicester next. Then they've got Man City, and then they've got Liverpool.
Oh, mama.
9 points then.
They're going to go into Christmas feeling great.
Yeah. Then they've got games. They've got Brighton, Newcastle, Southampton, and Spurs before the year is out. So yeah, they've got a tough run of fixtures coming up.
Oh yeah.
I could see them beating City.
It's at City as well. I'm not sure. I mean, I know City are playing bad, but that really would be that's the equivalent of Man United beating someone right now.
We just beat West Brom. What about? I can't see them losing all 3 games. I feel like they'll do what a lot of teams down the bottom do, where they just suddenly pull out a win. It might not be against City, but I think they'll win one of those 3 games. Yeah,
I think you would probably say that Leicester is their best shot, you would say. Fulham are not going to see a great deal of the ball against City, and I'm not sure they're good enough on the counter to hurt City. Liverpool, it's at Fulham, it's at the home ground. If they've got some fans back in the stadium as well, that's another thing to consider for some of these teams down the bottom. They might have an extra voice in their ears cheering them on, or potentially abusing them if they're not playing very well. So yeah, that could be a thing. But from an Everton point of view, they looked a lot better. Like Richarlison, as you said, does appear to be that missing link. And that front 3 with him, Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin really clicked it again, with Iwobi supporting as well.
What?
I thought he was moving on to the.
Good chat, guys. Thanks. What did you make of Alex Iwobi? He hasn't played huge amounts this season, but he looked really, really good yesterday, I thought.
Yeah, he's starting because he's been quite poor, I think, at the start of the season. But I think the whole team, a bit like Chelsea, I think they're all starting to gel together because obviously they made quite a few new signings as well.
Yeah, Alan looks really good. I really like the look of him, and I do also think Takure is quite an underrated signing as well.
I think James Rodriguez, just the passes you see him play, like he plays all these outside of the foot passes that just go straight to the man he's trying to get it to.
Yeah, he's a very cultured player. I don't know what it is about left-footed players. We said this before, but left-footed players just look so much better, don't they? Because there's less of them.
Yeah.
It's like left-footed golfers, like Phil Mickelson. I love it. I'm all about left-footed people. Just to wrap up the pod on Everton, 2 wins in their last 6. They're still 6th though, and only 4 points behind the leaders. So they've still given themselves, with that start to the season, a fantastic platform to have a really strong season. And who knows, if there is one Champions League place up for grabs at the end of the season, Everton and Leicester and maybe, I'm trying to think who else might be in with a shout. Those are the teams that might be just licking their lips and thinking, no, let's not be silly. They might be the ones looking at that and thinking maybe we can sneak into the Champions League this season.
I think both the Champions League and the Europa League are going to be very tight for spaces this year. I think there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I say Leicester City it's a little bit disrespectful because they did actually make the Champions League last year, did they not? Or did they?
No, they did finish 5th, didn't they?
They did finish 5th. You're right. Yes, they did. Ignore that. I'll edit that out. It's fine. Right, moving on. So the other teams in the bottom league. So Sheffield United against West Ham. We'll make this fairly brief because the game. Yeah, the game was not particularly brilliant. Just before we talk about Sheffield United, just a quick point on West Ham. That's 2 wins now against low-lying opposition, 8th in the league. Things are looking actually pretty rosy at the moment for West Ham, aren't they?
Yeah. Is Antonio back? I don't think he's back yet, is he?
Apparently he's back in training, but Moyes decided he wasn't worth the risk for this game. So he stuck with Haller.
And paid off as well.
Yeah, he had a much better game. Obviously, the thing is that you can't keep comparing him to Antonio. I think we've said this before. They're such different players, and there aren't many players in the Premier League, frankly, who will give you the sort of work rate that Antonio does off the ball. He's like the football equivalent of Nadal. He just chases everything. He never settles for the ball being out of play. He's just going to chase it regardless. And Haller is obviously not that player. Haller works a lot better when there's people around him, which is why he looks so out of sorts against teams like Liverpool last week, before the international break, sorry. When he's having to lead the line on his own, he's having to chase a lot of lost causes. He's not the most mobile of players in terms of his pace. So he just looks like he doesn't belong in the Premier League. He looks awful. But when you're playing against a side like Sheffield United, where they're going to have more of the ball, you can get more players around him. His worth suddenly starts to make a bit more sense. And he took his goal really well. There were some good performances around the pitch as well. Rice was superb again. Defensively looking good. That's another clean sheet as well. I think that's 4 now this season for West Ham. But we didn't have things all our own way. Sheffield United, a bit like Fulham, it's same old again, working reasonably hard, but just no cutting edge. They can't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think that... what's the word I'm trying to say? The signing of Brewster, gamble, that's what I was trying to say. That gamble of trying to sign Brewster, it's not paying off at the moment, is it?
No, and it's not an insignificant amount of money for somebody like Sheffield United to spend on a player. As you say, it was a big gamble. He had no real Premier League experience before that. He obviously had an okay spell at Swansea where he scored some goals for them. But it's absolutely not paying off. McBurney was the one who hit the bar towards the end. They've only scored 4 goals this season. It's not good, is it?
No, although they weren't exactly a high-scoring team last season, were they? They were definitely a clean sheet team, and they nicked the 1-0 wins. But unfortunately, they're not keeping the clean sheet. So
Yeah, I mean, they've conceded 15 goals now. 1 point from 9 games. No team has ever survived having had such a bad start, so they're going to have to defy all the odds and all the trends in history to stay up. Do you see them surviving? Do you see them getting out of this?
They need to get Dean Henderson back in goal.
Well, he's not really playing much at United right now,
No,
so
I would have loaned him back out, like Premier League football, playing every single weekend. I think we would have been better loaning him back to Sheffield. But
yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, Aaron Ramsdale has not. It's not his fault the way things are going. I don't recall him making any errors for any of their goals. Certainly not high profile ones, anyway.
not like Kepa mistakes, no.
Yeah, he is the measuring stick for which all shit goalkeeping should be measured. So yeah, really worrying stuff.
As for your question, do I think they can? I hope they can survive, because I think the season they had last season obviously blew everyone away or caught everyone by surprise. So I think it would be a massive shame if they end up just completely balls in this season up and getting relegated.
Yeah, no, I do as well. It would certainly be a shame to see Sheffield United go down if they continue in this manner, because it's not a reflection on the sort of side that they are. We know that they don't have the out-and-out quality to compete with the bigger sides in the league, but they're certainly a better unit as a team than what they're showing right now. So hopefully they can pick things up. And then finally, before we talk about the overall battle for relegation, Villa against Brighton. 4 points in the last 2 games for Brighton now, and all of a sudden, you look at the table now, they can just start to begin to look up the table rather than behind them and below. It's a massive win, this.
Yeah. That's what those sort of games are the games they need to be winning. Like against your teams like Palace and stuff like that, and Villa, etc. So yeah, good win for them.
Yeah. Talk me through the defending for the first goal from Brighton, the defending from Villa.
Well, Villa were a bit strange in this game, especially since the sort of Liverpool game seemed to have gone downhill a bit.
I mean, that defensive line must be 15 yards inside the Brighton half. I mean, is that just is that arrogance that they think they're so good on the ball that they can defend that high and get away with it, or is it just really crap, unaware, not focused defending?
Yeah, I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's a lack of concentration.
But surely a player in that team or a member of coaching staff should be seeing that and helping stop that before that happens.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the Istanbul goal that they scored against United when United had every single player in the other team's 18-yard box. I can't even speak today. 18-yard box. We all said that's like kids football, but it's just lack of concentration. I think everybody always wants to go forward and stuff, don't they? And push forward, and sometimes you just switch off.
Yeah, and it was good to see Danny Welbeck rolling back the years with that goal. It was a lung-busting run. I mean, he's run from sort of 10 yards inside Villa's half all the way to then dink the ball over Martinez. Is he, if they can keep him fit, is he the guy that could potentially score the goals to get Brighton out of trouble? Or do you think that perhaps he's only going to be a couple of goal man like he has been in the last few seasons?
I didn't even know he was at Brighton until I saw
him playing.
No, until I saw Brighton go 1-0 up. I looked at my phone and said Danny Welbeck had scored. Yeah. I was like, since when was he at Brighton?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's always been a good player, and I feel like injuries have prevented him from playing. This is going to sound disrespectful to the teams that he's played, but I feel like he could have played at a higher level for longer than he did. I know he had spells at United and Arsenal, but in particular, the Arsenal spell was blighted with injuries. He does still have something to offer, and I feel like Brighton actually could have got a good deal out of this.
Feels like he's been around for a long old time, Danny Welbeck.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, Brighton needs someone, doesn't they? So
yeah, they've got Neil Maupay, though. He's been quite prolific for them, I thought. Yeah.
I mean, Brighton scoring goals has been a bit of an issue this season, but if they can start to spread the load of the goals around the team, even if one player, even if their top scorer only gets 6, if they've got 4 or 5 players who've all got 4, 5, 6 goals, then that might be enough for them this year. So, so Villa got back on level terms. Some poor marking from Brighton cost them from a free kick. Solly March then put them back in front with a wonderful curling effort. We then saw a little bit of controversy, I think it's fair to say. So Lamptey, the right back for Brighton, who's had a great start to the season, he was given a second yellow, which I thought was quite harsh. What did you guys think?
Yes and no. I think it was a bit harsh, but it was also just kind of quite stupid from him.
It was clumsy, I'll give you that.
Yeah. It was harsh, I would agree. But again, I think I'd be inclined, because it was clumsy, wasn't it? He just, especially after just getting that yellow card, to then go and do that, you just don't do that.
Yeah, a little bit of inexperience maybe from him. And then from the resulting free kick came the big talking points. What do we think on this VAR drama? So the ball comes over, it goes to the back post. I forget who it was. It might have been Trezeguet, who is brought down. The penalty was originally given, and then Michael Oliver overruled it after going and checking the screen. What did you guys think on this? Do you think this was the correct decision to overrule it?
Yeah, personally, I didn't think it was a penalty, but I don't know. I think a lot of people did think it was a penalty. I didn't think it was a penalty personally.
Fran, what about you? What did you think on this one?
I knew you were going to come to me. I'm really bad at knowing if it's a penalty or not, to be honest. I usually watch all of them and then I go, Dan, was that a penalty? And then he says yes or no. And I usually just go with whatever he tells me. So
don't be a sheep, Fran. Don't be a sheep.
Well, yes, I know. But I genuinely, even if there's like a foul or anything, I'm like, Dan, was that a foul? What's happening? Was that a penalty?
But I must admit, no, I mean, I'm with you, Dan. I actually don't think this was a penalty either. I think it's another one of those situations where, because it's slowed down, you can pick the bones out of it because you're analysing it to within an inch of its life almost. But he does get the ball. There is contact with the player, but I wouldn't say it's one of those ones where there's a dangerous follow through, where he's potentially endangering the safety of an opponent, which I think is the correct terminology. He's just flicked out a leg. He's touched the ball with his foot, and I think he's caught him maybe on the side of the knee. Certainly doesn't warrant the 9.5 Oscar performance dive that he got from, I think it was Trezeguet.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously Villa feel very hard done by, but I think that overall, I think Brighton probably did deserve the win for this game from what I saw anyway.
Yeah, I think Brighton deserved the win.
And then what also wouldn't have helped Dean Smith's mood at the end of the game was that Ross Barkley pulled up with a hamstring problem. So apparently he pulled up early on in the game, kept going for a little while, and then eventually had to come off. We're not sure on the severity of it, but if he is out for hamstrings can sometimes take a month, even 2 months, if it's a bit more of a severe tear. That's a big blow for Villa because Barkley has started the season really well and built up a nice understanding with Grealish and with Watkins. Yeah,
it'd be a massive blow for them. They have sort of almost become like a poor man's Firmino, Salah and Mane, haven't they?
Villa being quite inconsistent in their recent form as well. Obviously, their early run of form does seem to have faded away a little bit. Would it be fair to say they've lost 3 of their last 4 now? They have got games coming up where they will believe they can pick up points. They're away at West Ham next, which won't be easy given the run of form that West Ham are currently on, so that could go either way. Then they've got Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley and West Brom. So they've got very winnable games coming up.
Mm.
And you've got to remember that they were almost relegated last season. I think they would be looking to avoid relegation. That's probably what their objective was at the start of the season. So anything above that is a plus, really.
I think they just had a great start, so now everyone's like, everyone thinks they're doing badly.
Like
you're absolutely right.
Europe and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think their task would have been to avoid relegation. So.
No, you're absolutely right. It is very easy to get carried away with a narrative just because they've had a cracking start of the season. That your expectations of a team suddenly change because of that. So just quickly then, before we move on, battle for relegation. It does seem, you wouldn't say that Brighton are far enough away at the moment to be considered not strong candidates for the drop, but their overall play has probably been the best of all the teams at the bottom. I think you'd be fair to say.
Yeah. I don't know about Sheffield. I don't know whether they are doomed or whether they can turn it around. I don't know. I feel like it's Chris Wilder, isn't it? I feel like he's a good enough manager to turn it around.
Yeah, it just one of those things when you get yourself into a rut like that. I feel like the work rate and the effort off the ball can actually be quite tricky to get back, because it's almost like this subconscious effect of losing all of these games that saps the energy from you and saps your almost like your motivation. And it's such an easy argument to say, yeah, but they're professional footballers, they should be working hard, etc. But there's such a psychological side to the pressures of Premier League football, and I feel like Chris Wilder has got a hell of a job on to get Sheffield United out of trouble.
He has, yeah, and I don't. You look at their team, I just don't see any players that, like I was saying before, with like your Crystal Palace and stuff. They've got like Zaha. I just don't see any Zahas in that Sheffield United team, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a fair comment. I mean, even when you look at a team like Fulham, they've got Mitrovic in there. If he can find some form, he's got a lot of goals in him. Loftus-Cheek obviously is a big player for them.
And Lookman, they've got a few players that can sort of change games. Whereas, I sort of barely remember any Sheffield United players' names, let alone like game. And obviously, you've got like your McGoldrick and stuff like that, but they're not like prolific goal scorers, are they?
No. So, I mean, Burnley picking up that win tonight, that puts them now outside of the bottom three as well. It still, at the moment, seems to be the bottom five. I mean, the whole situation is just so tailor-made for, if you look at Brighton, who've picked up these 4 points in these last two games, all of a sudden now you look at the table and it looks like they've now cut away from the bottom of the pack, which I don't think you can say that just yet. But if a team, say Fulham, for example, if they put two wins together, all of a sudden the difference in how their season starts to look. I mean, I'm just looking at the table now. They put two wins together, they go above Brighton. Depending on what they do, and then they're right on the tail of the rest of the pack, and then potentially you're talking 6 points between there and the top half of the league. Yeah, so it's still very tight, but somebody needs to make something happen.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Brighton were in the. I think they'll be in that relegation battle, but I'd be surprised if Brighton got relegated. I do think it'll be like your West Brom, Fulham. I think those two definitely, and then interesting to see who take that third spot. Obviously, it doesn't look like it's going to be Leeds, who have just come up. Yeah, I don't know who will take that third spot. I couldn't call that, but I think it will be a West Brom and Fulham sort of 24th, 23rd. How many teams in the Premier League? 20.
Are you all right, Dad? Do you need a minute?
What's happened?
It's Monday. It'd be interesting. I mean, I touted Burnley from the start of the season as being a team that might struggle. I am surprised. I think everyone is surprised to see Sheffield United struggling in the manner that they are. I don't think necessarily the fact that they're near the bottom end of the table is a surprise, but to see them the way they are, I think is the surprise, with the low amount of goals, the only the 1 point, still no wins. I think that's the surprise. So, yeah, a big month or two coming up for all of those teams down the bottom. So, let's move on. Just before we move on to your stat question and then Fran's game show at the end, Football with Fran, I just want to touch on, did you see the Leeds Arsenal game?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you see the mascot walkout at the start?
I didn't see the start. I started watching at half time, but I saw on Facebook about it.
Yeah, it's a really nice touch. So Leeds, like everybody else in this pandemic, have been unable to have the mascots, the young kids walk out with the team. So Elliot Metcalf did a video call with the Leeds captain, who held the tablet as he walked out, and you could see him, they were interacting with each other in the tunnel and that sort of thing. And basically he held the tablet out in front of him with the front-facing camera, so that he sort of got as close to the experience of walking out in the pitch as he could possibly get in these times. I just thought it was a really nice touch. He's only 13 years old. He's suffering with cancer. I thought it was a really lovely touch. I'm surprised that other teams haven't explored something like this as well. So, yeah, lovely touch there from Leeds. Right. Dan, why don't you remind us of your stat from earlier, and then we'll have a crack at it, see if we can get these answers.
Yep. So I'll read it again. So Johnny Evans' own goal for Leicester was his 6th in the Premier League. Only 3 other players have scored more own goals in the competition's history. Can you name them, Chris?
I reckon Richard Dunn is one of them.
He is. He's scored the most with 10.
I feel like there might be a. I was going to say Man United defender, someone like a Gary Pallister, someone like that.
No, not quite that far back.
Okay, I mean I could be here forever guessing. So in the interest of time.
So 2 people drawn on 7. One of them was, they're both actually Liverpool players, Jamie Carragher and Martin Skirtle.
Martin Skirtle, the Pokemon himself. Right. Cool. Thanks for that, Dan. Now let's get ready. I'm going to try the intro again, see if you can hear it.
Right.
If not, I'll have to edit in afterwards again. Right. Here we go. Did you hear that time?
We heard 2
It's
seconds
like 2
of it.
seconds.
So I think what it is, I think the filter on the mic that I use filters out anything that isn't talking. So I think it's that. So that's fine. I'll put it in afterwards.
Okay. Welcome back to Football with Fran. So this week we're just doing some general Premier League quiz questions, just some fun facts about the Premier League for you both. So I'm going to ask you, same as last week, the same question, and then I will just Chris ask you for your answer and Dan ask you for your answer.
Better write them down then.
Did we get to the bottom of what the actual score is?
No, Dan literally just said that to me.
I'm so sorry, listeners. I completely forgot to go back and listen. But 99% certain it's 5-3 to Dan.
Yeah, I think I'm 2 ahead, so I would agree with that.
Okay, well let's go with 5-3. I think that's what we ended it on
we can
last
listen
week.
back to the second to last and find out. Can't we?
Which we should have done. Okay, right. Question 1. Which player scored the fastest hat-trick in the Premier League?
Ooh.
Oh.
I feel like none of us are going to get any answers. I thought you were going to say the fastest goal. I know who that is. Is that one of the
Fastest hat trick ever?
fastest hat trick?
Right.
I feel it's fairly recent. I'm sure I've seen this recently.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Chris?
Oh man. I'm gonna say Wayne Rooney.
Okay.
I've gone for Mane.
Dan smashed it.
Yeah.
Sadio Mane, 2 minutes and 56 seconds when it was Southampton v Villa in 2015. Well done.
Someone's closer.
Okay, question 2. Which player with 653 games has made the most Premier League appearances?
I think I know that as well.
Oh, someone's confident.
Maybe.
Chris, I can't see Chris. Chris, how are you feeling? Less confident, I guess.
Less confident.
Probably not, but it's probably not right.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Chris.
So most Premier League. So that number you gave, 600, whatever it was, that is
has
the most
made
Premier
the
League
most
appearances.
Premier League appearances.
I'm going to say Ryan Giggs.
All right.
See, I was thinking along the lines of either James Milner, but I've gone for Gareth Barry.
Jesus. Yeah, Dan, you're right.
Oh, fuck off, Dan.
I swear to God, he cannot see. Right, question 3. With 260 goals, who is the Premier League's all-time top scorer?
Okay, that one I do know. That's Alan Shearer.
You know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Did you just say the answer, Chris?
Alan Shearer, yeah.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah.
Well, like Chris spoke and then you spoke at the same time. And then I was like, I feel like Chris just said it. Okay. Question 4. When was the inaugural Premier League season?
What does that mean?
The first.
Oh, the first.
Don't explain it to him. No, he's got to understand the English language. I need every advantage I can get.
Chris?
1992.
Yeah.
Oh, bollocks.
What?
At 91.
Oh.
So it's 1, 2.
So it's now
Counts, doesn't it?
it's 3-2 to Dan currently. Right, question 5. Which team won the first Premier League title?
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. I think. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, go on, Chris.
Dan, you got an answer?
Hang on, let me write it down. I think it's wrong.
You don't have to write it down.
Well, I do, because otherwise I could just say
Okay, yeah,
exactly what
sure.
it says.
Sorry. Yeah, Chris, go on.
I think it's Blackburn.
I think it is. I'll put Liverpool.
It was Manchester United.
Oh, right. That is that. I should know that.
Liverpool haven't won the Liverpool won the Premier League last season for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that was even worse.
What has happened to you this evening?
What do you mean? I'm winning.
Okay, next question.
Shocking.
With 202 clean sheets, which goalkeeper has the best record in the Premier League?
Okay, I'll take a stab.
Ooh, it's not Kepa.
Chris?
Dan, got an answer?
Hang on, 2 seconds.
Oh,
I'm just
sorry.
changing it.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it's not what I just changed it. Oh, well, I know what.
Oh, right.
Yeah, go on.
Chris.
I've not spelled it right.
I'm going to pet a check.
Yeah.
So I put that and I changed it to Schmeichel.
Oh my God, Chris, well done.
Oh, he's back in the game.
Holy
Scenes here in Borden.
Good
Stick with
Lord.
your first choice.
Right, last question.
No way. Has it come down to this?
3-3. Okay. How many clubs competed in the inaugural Premier League season? Dan's confident, written it down straight away.
I think I know, but I don't.
We'll have to go to a a tie break, whatever it's called, if you get it right. Right, Chris, go on.
This has really thrown me because I thought it has always been 20. So I'm gonna go with 20. I think that's a trick question.
Right.
I think it's 18.
Oof, neither of you got it.
What was it?
It's 22.
How was it?
Oh, was it? Okay.
God's sake. Right, tie break.
Have you got a tie break question?
Yep. Give me a minute.
Google.
Give me a
Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves, everybody.
Okay. Okay. Ronaldo helped Portugal win the European Championship in which year? This is the first time I've had a tiebreak question ready. Hold on.
If we both get it right.
Yeah,
both get it.
Right. Go on then, Chris.
2016.
2016.
Oh, for God's sake. Yes, well done, everybody.
I just had to think back 4 years. It took me long enough to do it.
Okay, well, just chat between yourselves for a minute.
Was it just general maths that was holding it up there?
Yeah, I was thinking, were we just about to have the World Cup or the Euros?
Okay. Which outfield player appeared in the Champions League final in 3 different decades?
Oh, what a question that is. I love that from you.
3 different decades?
Yeah, you know what a decade is?
Yes, I do.
It's been a bit of nifty.
That is brutal from you, Fran. 3 different decades.
The Champions League
Which
final?
outfield player appeared in the Champions League final in 3 different decades?
Oh, I'm not going to have a clue. You might want to get another tiebreaker.
Well, this can't go on forever, so.
I'm gonna take a stab.
Okay. No, I think that's wrong.
It's one of two. It's one of two options I'm going for.
I've gone. Yeah, this is wrong.
Right, go on then, Chris.
I'm going to be so annoyed if it's. I'm going to say Thierry Henry.
Good shout. I've gone Ronaldo, but like R9 Ronaldo.
No, neither of you. Chris, what was your other one?
Zlatan.
No.
Okay.
Ryan Giggs.
Ah. Gave him. Okay. Can I get half a point because I gave him as an answer from one earlier?
Right, well, hold on a second.
This is the tensest quiz we've ever had.
Podcast as well. If only I hadn't changed my answer.
England's all-time leading European Championship goal scorer has a tally of 7 goals. Can you name the player?
European.
If one of you could get this,
so not World Cup.
It just says European Championship.
I think that's the Euros.
If one of you could get this right, just one of you, that's the idea.
Dan, if you just want to concede now, I'll be happy to take the win.
I'm running out of options, so.
I feel like going with a really stupid answer, but I don't think that'll be right. I'll play it safe. I don't think that's right.
Chris, have you got an answer?
I'm going to go with Michael Owen.
Right.
Oh, it's probably better than I've just gone Rooney, but I don't think that's right.
Oh, come on. Where's your football knowledge, both of you? What is happening? It's Alan Shearer.
We're not covering ourselves in glory here, are we, Dan?
This is horrendous.
It started so well. I got 3 in a row, and now I've got like 6 where in a row.
Right, this is
talking about what we could do for a Christmas special. Should we just do the end of this quiz for the Christmas special?
Do you want me to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
Right, one more. Otherwise, if we don't get this one, it's a draw.
Okay. This is funny. David Beckham took ballet lessons during his time at Manchester United in order to improve his agility. True or false? Chris? Oh, hold on, Dan.
What a ridiculous question.
I know.
Do you not love this curveball? I really enjoy it.
Oh my God.
True or false? Chris?
What if I fucking lose this quiz round on a question like this? I'm going to be fuming.
50-50.
I'm going to. Oh my God. I'm going to say it's true.
All right. Well, I think it's so stupid that it's going to make you think it's true. So I've gone for false.
Oh, yeah. Dan's won.
Fuck off, Dan.
Sorry.
What a stupid. Who made up that? Honestly, what a ridiculous question.
Well, you weren't getting any others right, were you?
I'm going to lodge a formal protest.
It seemed too stupid to be true.
Well, that was a really boring end for me. I'm really disappointed in myself.
Chris, I'm so sorry.
I mean, to think that David Beckham has taken ballet lessons was stupid, but can we just take a moment to appreciate that Dan thought that Liverpool won the Premier League in 92?
That was stupid. Trying to think outside the box. I thought way too far outside the box.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, this episode of The Kickabout has dragged on an awful lot longer than we anticipated. So apologies for our horrendous quiz knowledge. That makes it now 6-3 to Dan, so his 3-point advantage is restored. So I've got some work to do. Excuse me. But anyway, thank you very much for everyone for listening. Next week will be the last Skype with a bit of luck. And then on our first recording back, we will have details of our Christmas giveaway and also our Christmas plans for our podcast to go and try and cover the ridiculous amounts of football that's played over Christmas this year. So, looking forward to that. Dan and Fran, thank you very much for tonight. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.